IBvodcast, Philip Curvis.
Oh, me? I'm gonna kick it off here. So let's start about talking about being able to control your teacher. Why not? Every student would like more control over their teacher, but not in the ways that this is gonna do. However, this will allow students to pause, rewind, fast forward. As we know, students are not 100% attentive for every hour of the lesson that we're talking or working with them. Sometimes they need a moment to look out the window or catch their breath or something like this, and they miss a bit. So they can always go back and have a look at it.
And it's on their own time, right?
It is.
Good point.
And it's flexible too, kind of thing. If they need to listen to it on the train or the bus kind of thing, or they can listen to it at home.
We have lots of students that record or download these from their iTunes right before school's out, and they watch it on their bus ride back down to southern Bavaria.
Sweet.
I mean, they do their homework, on their iPod, I guess.
Nice.
What about absences?
Absences are a huge one in my mind. With these international schools and schools in general, there's lots of excellent, interesting events that students can partake in, but they also, then they're missing out on, say, a week or part of a week of content, and catching that up on their own. This is just a very nice way to access students and make sure that they are not coming back too far behind.
And right now, I have a student that's actually broke his leg, kind of thing. Can't come to school. He's in the hospital for a thing, but he's got access to the internet. He's still functioning. He's not sick, kind of thing, but he's not at the school, and so he's keeping up with the work. And his mom's kind of checking up on him, and he's not going to be able to fall behind.
Broken leg. It's a big deal. Don't want those broken legs. And yeah, they won't fall behind this way. Homework problems. This is actually quite important, because when you start teaching maybe some higher level math or any higher level that just involves a lot of questions and stuff like that, you can lose a whole lesson just doing homework problems or answering students' questions. But this is a great way for them to just for you to progress, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's two expansions on that. One is, if there's a really challenging problem, just going through it once with the kids isn't always enough. They maybe need to see it a couple times, or what was happening around part C or something like this if it's a long problem. Or if you're in a situation where, 5 of your 18 kids didn't get it, but the other kids did, the other 13 don't really need to sit there and watch you go through it, but you can make this opportunity for the students that had the question.
Revision. This is, I think, where podcasting is invaluable. You can probably sort of make excuses for not doing some of these other reasons, or not doing them for other reasons, but the revision is unparalleled, I think. When you're revising for your IB exam and you don't have your teacher anymore, or at least not it to be able to ask it anything, any chapter, any topic, any function, any whatever, the revision is a huge thing, right? Right, Dave?
Yeah, and so so the teacher's basically at their beck and call. It's a one-way conversation pretty much, because they'll be listening to me just do a problem or explain a concept, but they can go back to trig, they can go back to sequence and series. All these topics that they studied a year and a half ago, they can watch the lessons again when they get stuck.
And actually, they can go even further back. If they're, let's, for example, in standard level math, and they're in 12th grade studying for their IB exam, and they just can't remember how to factor, well, that's not something you necessarily teach in standard level per se, but they can go subscribe to the 9th grade or the 10th grade feed, and they can go way back if you're making podcasts, all the way through middle school and high school.
Yeah.
What about this one?
All right. So one of the things that we were talking about is teaching in pairs all the time. So that we're doing podcasts in pairs, so that you have the interaction. Plus, one teacher may be really strong graphically, doing things technologically and graphically. The other teacher may be really strong doing things algebraically, and so the students can see two different approaches to the same kind of problem.
Mm-hmm. Plus, sometimes you argue, and the kids like that. And but yeah, different teaching techniques is huge for kids.
That really came out the first year where we started doing them together. Then I'd start doing it one way, and you'd add a technique on another way, and the kids got to see which method they would use on themselves. So they saw both. And there's far more than one way to solve a problem. We all, yeah.
There should probably be an exclamation point or something, maybe two. How to use podcasts. This is sort of how we started doing podcasts. I think these are extremely valuable. What do we mean by this, Phil?
When you're looking at the processes, first couple times using Geometry Sketchpad or some kind of software in the lesson, we're spending the whole lesson teaching the software and what to click and when, and a little bit of it doing the math. Once you make a video of the how-tos, you spend the lesson on the deeper thinking and actually doing the mathematics. So that was the biggest thing. Same with the calculator. The students sometimes forget which sequence to press the buttons to get at certain menus. If they can go back, rewind, and see you hitting the buttons, that really helps them a lot.
Yeah, so any sort of software you think that you're going to spend way too much time answering questions on how to do this, how to do that, just podcast it, and then the kids don't ask any questions about that. They ask conceptual questions, the questions you want to be answering.
Yeah.
The flip. Dave, what's going on with the flip?
Oh, yeah. So the flip is kind of a new thing going on here. And we've been doing it with the grade 9 class for probably about 3 or 4 months now. And what happens is we podcast the lectures, and their job is to go home, listen to the lectures at night, take notes, write down any questions they may have. And then when they come to class, that's when typically they would do their homework. And so most of the time it's just a big giant work period where the kids are working on a new topic that they listened to last night, and they're solving problems. My job now is I walk around the classroom and I help kids out. I answer questions. I'm always engaged helping kids out, and the kids are on task doing math.
Yeah, instead of teaching, I've done this in my standard level a few months back. Instead of teaching, let's say maybe a half hour, 40 minutes for a lesson, and then giving some kids maybe some independent time, I can do that half hour to 40 minutes at home, and it's usually much, much less. Maybe 10 to 15 minutes of lesson time, and then they just sit and do problems. And instead of maybe getting to each student, once or twice a week for a few minutes, I can get to every single student every single day for maybe 3 or 4 minutes or 5 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is, you can't beat
you
that.
You get much more access to kids and their questions, as opposed to here's the concept, then they're working on it at home, and then you break the cycle a little bit. You become much more efficient with your time, don't you?
You're a facilitator of learning and not necessarily a teacher.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
And on those classes, you can also get deeper into this stuff because the algorithms are done, taken care of.
Yeah.
But you can talk about the concepts and get deeper into the ideas.
This last one, it's their world. That's definitely true. Like, we see kids on YouTube all the time and listening to their iPods and stuff like that. And this is just right up their alley, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's huge. I mean, they love it. They tell us they love it. Instead of, if they need to know how to do logarithms, they don't go back into their book and look up, logarithms. They go online and find, somebody else's that's done it, and may as well be you.
Right. Yeah, and I've started to find also that they're finding other people out there doing things. So sometimes maybe they have found one of the problems that I've explained. I'm not sure what was happening there. And I'll see them look up a different way, and that's really cool too. They're becoming independent and able to be resourceful as well, which is quite nice.
Yeah. Is that it?
That's good.
If you're not convinced yet, then I think you're hopeless. So, no offense. No, give it a try, and obviously we over at Munich International School will support you in any way. Anything else, Mr. Phil?